Chapter 3805. However, I can guarantee that as long as you are in the residential area or the cultivation area, there will be no cultivators who will disturb you. Thank you, Steward Sheen. Bewitching said. You're welcome. As they sent Steward Sheen off, they also discovered that there were many cultivators outside the house looking into the house. It was obvious that they wanted to ask them about the secret to passing the trial. However, when they closed the door, no one came to disturb them. It was obvious that Steward Sheen had appeared. Fortunately, Steward Sheen appeared. Otherwise, we would have been in trouble for the next few days. Xiren sighed with emotion. Although he only took a simple glance outside, he also felt that the number of people was astonishing. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. Previously, when Yunju obtained the inheritance, there were many people looking for her. However, more people thought that it was a coincidence, so the number of people was a bit smaller. Now that Bei Chun and I have also succeeded, everyone thinks that we have a secret. Naturally, the number of people is quite astonishing. In my opinion, we can't stay in this demon training tower for long. It's actually very troublesome to attract too much attention. Bei Chun slowly said. After Xiren and Ying have finished, we will set off for the Penglai Palace. All right. Xiren nodded. Ying and I are about to break through in the next 2 days. After we break through, we will go and pass the trial. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze couldn't help but fall on Ao Lingxiao and said, Ao Lingxiao, what did you want to say to Beichen before? After Bailey Hongzhuang's reminder, everyone remembered that Ao Lingxiao had indeed wanted to talk to Beichen about something, but was disturbed by the appearance of Steward Sheen. Ao Lingxiao was slightly stunned, then waved his hand and said, Nothing. Seeing that, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Ao Lingxiao thoughtfully. She felt that Ao Lingxiao's expression when he opened his mouth was a bit complicated, and it didn't seem like he was going to talk about something unimportant. However, since Ao Lingxiao was unwilling to say anything, there was no point in her continuing to ask. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Beichen had also successfully obtained the inheritance, when Xiren and Shangguan Ying began their closed-door training wholeheartedly. Now that 3 people in their team had successfully obtained the inheritance, they naturally wanted to succeed as well. The news of 3 inheritors appearing in the Demon Training Tower spread like the wind through the entire Penglai Island. For a moment, the Demon Training Tower became a hot place. All the cultivators who felt that they had a glimmer of hope rushed towards the Demon Training Tower without stopping, and the number of cultivators who were rejected by the trial area was even more shocking. Penglai Palace. Yanwei, this is really a big deal. Yizihua walked into Long Yanwei's residence with a face full of smiles. Now, he really couldn't help but admire Long Yanwei's foresight. He had really dug up a treasure. What happened? Long Yanwei looked at Yizihua. Judging from your expression, it doesn't seem like something big happened. Yizihua shook his head. No, something big did happen this time. It's just a good thing. Good thing? Long Yanwei raised his eyebrows. After thinking for a moment, he couldn't think of a good thing that could have happened. He said, Don't keep me in suspense. Didn't you specially come here to talk about something? Just say it directly. Chapter 3806. Recently, the Demon Training Pagoda has been in the limelight because after so long, another inheritor has finally appeared. A few days ago, an inheritor appeared, and now, 2 more inheritors have appeared. Recently, many cultivators have been rushing to the Demon Training Pagoda, wanting to take advantage of this wave of craze to see if they have this luck. Yizihua said. Hearing this, Long Yanwei couldn't help but chuckle. The inheritance of the Demon Training Pagoda completely relies on strength and has nothing to do with luck. Those fellows who want to try their luck are just indulging in fantasy. However, this is the good news of the Demon Training Pagoda. What does it have to do with us? When Long Yanwei finished speaking, he seemed to have suddenly thought of something, and his expression suddenly changed. Could it be that the cultivator who obtained the inheritance is a disciple of our Penglai Palace? Yizihua smiled and nodded. Your reaction isn't too slow. Previously, Beichin and the others said that they wanted to go to the Demon Training Pagoda to explore and see if they could obtain the inheritance. Long Yanwei narrowed his eyes. The people who obtained the inheritance couldn't be them, right? Hi, you guessed it right. Izihua's face was full of smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun both obtained the inheritance, and now the entire Penglai Palace is talking about them. And now they're famous again. Now it seems that these two little fellows are really geniuses. Back then, obtaining the inheritance of the Blood Training Pagoda was already very impressive, and now they even obtained the inheritance of the Demon Training Pagoda. After the Palace Master heard this news, he was very happy. Originally, this matter would make the Demon Training Pagoda famous, but Di Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang were disciples of the Penglai Palace, so the Penglai Palace was also in the limelight. Needless to say, this time, the number of cultivators who want to join the Penglai Palace will definitely reach a new high. Even though he had such a guess, after receiving Izihua's confirmation, Long Yanwei still felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. I didn't think that they would actually succeed. Yeah, Izihua's black eyes were filled with admiration. Yanwei, now everyone is talking about your discerning eyes. Previously, I thought that the price of using 3 demon pet eggs to recruit them was a bit too high, but now it seems that it's all worth it. The corners of Long Yanwei's lips slowly curled up into an arc. From the looks of it, I've hit the jackpot. There are a total of 3 cultivators who have recently obtained inheritances in the Demon Training Tower. Currently, many forces have already gone to recruit them. The Hall Master hopes that we can recruit them as well. Long Yanwei was surprised when he heard this. There's actually a third person? Does this person not belong to any faction? This person has also just arrived at Penglai Island from the outside world. Now, he has already become a character that all the major powers are fighting to invite. We have to hurry and head to the Demon Training Tower. Long Yanwei frowned. I've never been good at this kind of thing, so I won't go. That won't do. The Hall Master has clearly said that you must go. Why should I go there? Long Yanwei shook his head. It was just a coincidence that I recruited Di Beichun and the others. Purposely going outside to recruit cultivators is not something I like to do. You don't know this. This cultivator is a friend of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. The Hall Master thinks that with your relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, once you make a move, you will definitely be able to recruit this cultivator back. Izihua said with a smile. Chapter 3807. This cultivator and Hongzhuang know each other. Long Yanwei looked at Izihua in disbelief. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Izihua nodded. Yes, this news is already well known. It seems that the cultivator came from the outside world to find them, and now they have successfully met. In my opinion, our Penglai Palace has the highest chance of success. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun are both in Penglai Palace. Since the cultivator came to find them, he should not join other forces. If the 3 inheritors are all disciples of our Penglai Palace, then it will be really glorious. Long Yanwei had completely understood at this moment. His thoughts were the same as the Palace Master's. The cultivator would most likely join their Penglai Palace. I didn't expect that the cultivators in the outside world are so amazing. Long Yanwei sighed. No one in Penglai Island has succeeded in obtaining this inheritance for so many years, but the 3 little guys in the outside world have obtained it. This is really exciting. You'd better pack up and get ready to go now. Although our Penglai Palace has the highest chance of success in this matter, if we fail, I'm afraid the Palace Master will be very unhappy. It seems that I can't avoid this matter. Wait for me for a moment. I'll pack up and leave. Chu Yinyao also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had obtained the inheritance, and her face suddenly became extremely ugly. Damn it, I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang's luck to be so good. She even succeeded in breaking through the magic training tower. Chu Yinyao's face could not hide the anger, and she reached out and directly threw the teacup to the ground. What she wanted was for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to be covered in dirt. However, now that Bailey Hongzhuang was in the limelight, how could she not be angry? After hearing the news, Chu Yunshang's eyes also darkened. Yin Yao, I'm afraid you're in big trouble this time. You didn't succeed last time. This time, once Bailey Hongzhuang and others come back, it will be very difficult for you to deal with them again. Listening to Chu Yunshang's words, Chu Yunyao was noncommittal. The murderous aura is indeed powerful, but I can still fight against them. Sister, why do you have to boost the morale of others and diminish your own? Chu Yunshang shook her head. I'm not trying to boost his morale. I'm just telling the truth. It is said that as long as one obtains the inheritance of the Devil Training Tower, one's cultivation will increase by a lot. Previously, although the cultivation of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others was slightly weaker than yours, after they return this time, their strength might not be weaker than yours. They might even be stronger than you. Huh? Chu Yinyao chuckled. Elder sister, aren't you being too paranoid? Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang was only at the 6th level of the Purple Realm. Even if her cultivation had increased, could it be that she could advance to the Astral Radiance realm? Aren't you about to break through to the Starlight realm? With your help, do you still need to worry about Bailey Hongzhuang and others? After thinking for a moment, Chu Yunshang said in a deep voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and others can't be underestimated. I'll try to successfully break through to the Astral Radiance realm before they come back. In this way, if they really come to find trouble, we don't have to worry too much. Since you can't go out recently, you might as well cultivate in seclusion and strive to improve your cultivation. Chapter 38:08. Even if it's very difficult to break through, you can't slack off. Chu Yunshang looked at Chu Yunyao helplessly. Since the incident with Duan Huali, Chu Yunyao not only changed her temperament, but also did not practice as hard as before. In this regard, she felt extremely helpless, but there was nothing she could do. Where did I slack off? Chu Yunyao looked unhappy. I'm just not as lucky as you. Why do you always speak with such an attitude now? I'm your sister. Can't you talk to me properly? Everything I do is for your own good. Chu Yunshang looked at Chu Yunyao earnestly. We can't limit our eyes to this. There is a wider world behind. Are you going to stay here all the time? You have to think about it. Even if you insist on liking Duan Huali, once Duan Huali enters the Star Realm, he and you will not be in the same world. Don't be fooled by how Duan Huali likes to flirt with other women. He is very attentive towards cultivation. Chu Yunyao originally wanted to refute Chu Yunshang, but when she heard Chu Yunshang's words, she couldn't help falling into silence. Seeing that Chu Yunyao finally listened to her words, Chu Yunshang continued, Don't look at Bailey Hongzhuang and others who are weaker than you before. They are people who are favored by the Hall Master and Long Darren. After staying in Penglai Palace for so long, you should also know a lot of practitioners. Although their strength was not very good before, their later development is very amazing. During this time, he and June also helped me inquire about a lot of news. As far as I know, Bailey Hongzhuang and others are extremely hard-working in cultivation. They have only been in Penglai Island for a short time, but the progress of their cultivation base is very terrible. Not only that, from their ability to fight beyond their level, you can know how solid their basic skills are. Since you've already offended such an opponent, you have to be more careful. Once they become stronger, you'll be the one in trouble. Chu Yunshang looked slightly dignified. Since knowing that Chu Yunyao was going to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and others, she had a bad feeling in her heart. If she offended other practitioners, it would be fine, but it was such a practitioner who was favored by everyone. She was very clear how shrewd the Hall Master's vision was, and Long Yanwei had seen countless people. Since he could be favored by them, he would not be a simple person in the future. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun have obtained the inheritance of the Demon Training Tower, which proves their strength and talent. Chu Yunyao's eyes darkened. Is too exaggerated. But sister, you are exaggerating. But there, and I... Wait. We... Chapter 38:09. After passing the trial, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun rested for 2 days. Although it was only a short 3 days, this kind of test was very tiring for them. They didn't feel tired physically, but they were mentally exhausted. This exhaustion was filled with vicissitudes. Breaking through the inner demons was extremely difficult, and they didn't want to think about the scene when they broke through. Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Bei Chun had a tacit understanding not to ask each other what they had seen in the last assessment. In fact, they also had some guesses in their hearts. After all, they knew each other very well. Shangguan Yingying and Wen Ziren entered closed-door cultivation wholeheartedly. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had both obtained inheritances, the pressure on them had increased. Once they succeeded, their strength would improve rapidly. Otherwise, the gap between their cultivations would be completely widened. With such a huge gap between them, it would be impossible for them to catch up without some kind of special opportunity. As companions, they naturally didn't want to be left behind like this. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two obtain inheritances, Ao Lingxiao couldn't hold back anymore. Back then, he had indeed failed to pass the trial in the Demon Training Tower. However, after learning some experiences from Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, he couldn't help but want to give it a try. After all, he was already here. If he could obtain an inheritance, it would be a good thing. As a result, while Ziren and Di Beichun were still in closed-door cultivation, Ao Lingxiao directly went to pass the trial. However, Ao Lingxiao's attempt didn't go as smoothly as he had expected. In the end, he still failed. Ao Lingxiao, the trial itself is a bit abnormal. Once you overcome your inner demons, this shouldn't be a problem. Di Beichun patted Ao Lingxiao's shoulder and comforted him. Hearing that, Ao Lingxiao smiled. My inner demons aren't as strong as yours. I already knew that when I came to pass the trial. Originally, when I saw you succeed, I also wanted to give it a try. However, the final result was still not enough. It doesn't matter. If we don't succeed this time, we can always try again, Bailey Hongzhuang said. However, Ao Lingxiao waved his hand. This matter has already become my inner demon. How difficult is it to overcome it? After saying that, Ao Lingxiao didn't say anything else and directly walked toward his residence. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other. I think there's something wrong with Ao Lingxiao. His face is somewhat pale, and he seems to have lost his soul. It seems that the situation is as he said. That is no longer a demonic barrier, but a heart demon. Otherwise, his expression wouldn't be so ugly. Di Beichun's deep eyes flickered with the light of contemplation. Everyone would see something they didn't want to see the most during the assessment. It was just that some people could accept such a scene, while others could not. Judging from Ao Lingxiao's soulless expression, this scene was something he couldn't accept. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such an expression. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She faintly felt that Ao Lingxiao's current special personality might have something to do with something he couldn't accept. Chapter 3810. Ever since Ao Lingxiao failed the test, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had not seen him leave his room for a few days. Looks like Ao Lingxiao has a lot of sad things to worry about. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been in such a state for so many days. Ziren walked out of his room after successfully breaking through to the 7th level of the Purple Realm. He couldn't help but sigh after knowing about Ao Lingxiao's situation. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Anyway, we're not in a hurry to leave. We'll just wait for him to straighten out his thoughts. Ziren, you've already broken through. Yingying should be breaking through soon, right? That's right. Ziren nodded. Yingying's speed is slightly slower than mine. However, it should be tomorrow. Cultivating in this cultivation area is indeed quite fast. Just as everyone was conversing, a familiar voice suddenly entered their ears. You little fellows are really here. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others quickly turned around. As expected, Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua were walking towards them with smiles on their faces. Master Long, Instructor Yi, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others bowed with a trace of astonishment in their eyes. Why are you guys here? As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others spoke, Imo Yinjue's gaze also fell on Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua. So this person was the Master Long that everyone was talking about. Yizihua didn't immediately reply to Bailey Hongzhuang. Instead, his gaze quietly fell on Mo Yunjue. Mo Yunjue was wearing a black robe. His handsome face exuded a bone-chilling coldness, and his eyes were also cold. Just as the rumors said, this Mo Yunjue was a cold person. If I'm not wrong, this should be Mo Yunjue, young Master Mo? I am indeed Mo Yunjue. Mo Yunjue cupped his hands and said. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others suddenly understood. It turned out that Master Long and Master Long came for Mo Yunjue. However, this was within their expectations. They just did not expect Penglai Palace to let Long Yanwei and Master Long come to recruit him. In the past few days, many forces had come to recruit him, but they were all rejected by Mo Yunjue. Now that they had reunited, there was no reason for them to separate. As expected, heroes come from the young. Young Master Mo was able to obtain the legacy of the Devil Training Tower at such a young age. You are truly a hero of this generation, Yizihua said with a smile. Senior, you flatter me. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, finding it very funny. Usually, when they saw Yizihua, he had the appearance of a mentor. At this moment, seeing Yizihua say such words to recruit people, it was really different from his usual style. Master Long, mentor, there are many people here. Why don't we go inside and talk? Bewitching said. Long Yanwei nodded, subconsciously looked around and nodded. Okay. After everyone walked into the house, everyone's expressions also relaxed and easygoing. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were most familiar with Long Yanwei and Master Long in Penglai Palace. Even if the two were seniors, they were also very casual. Master Long, mentor, you came this time to recruit Yinju, right? Xiren said with a smile. Chapter 38:11. Master Long, didn't I rip you off last time? You've been looking at me like that ever since. Isn't this too depressing for me? When Xiren's face suddenly fell. The last time he ripped off Master Long, it was really a great deal for them. However, since then, he had been labeled as a treacherous person in Master Long's heart. When Xiren also felt very helpless about this. This was not the result he wanted. Looking at when Xiren's appearance, Long Yanwei could not help but chuckle. Forget it. You don't have to act pitiful in front of me. Do you think I don't know that this is all an act? Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching also had a smile in their eyes. Master Long was only like this on the surface. In fact, he had always been very good to them. Even when he was ripped off before, Master Long had never cared. Right, why isn't Shengwan Yingying here? Long Yanwei looked at Xiren and the others. One had to know that the four of them had always been together. Yingying is cultivating in seclusion. She will soon break through to the 7th level of the Purple Realm. Xiren smiled faintly. Hearing this, Long Yanwei and Yizihua looked at each other. They could not help but sigh in their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' improvement speed was really not slow. When they first joined the Penglai Palace, they were only at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. Now, in just a few short months, they were about to break through to the 7th level of the Purple Realm. Xiren and Shengwan Yingying already had this kind of strength before they even passed the level, not to mention Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who had already passed the level. At this moment, even Long Yanwei himself was a little emotional. The reason why he had recruited Bailey Hongzhuang and the others was because of their outstanding combat strength. More importantly, it was because Bailey Hongzhuang's special contract beast that attracted his attention. However, he himself did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to be so outstanding, far exceeding his expectations. So that's how it is. The speed of your improvement is really fast. Yizihua said with a smile. Previously, you were accepted as Inner Palace disciples because of an exception. After you return this time, you will truly have the qualifications to become Inner Palace disciples. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and smiled. Indeed, when they were in the inner hall, they did not have a proper status. The way everyone looked at them made them feel very unhappy. After he returned, He believed that no one would bring up this matter again. After all, they'd been looked down upon by everyone, and they were very unhappy in their hearts. Young Master Emo, I wonder if you are willing to join our Penglai Palace? Long Yanwei looked at Emo Yunjue. His usually dignified face was now amiable and approachable. Beichin and the others are inner palace disciples of our Penglai Palace. Since you were friends with them, why don't you join Penglai Palace as well? Emo Yunjue looked at Long Yanwei. He had come this time to help Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Now that Di Beichin's physique problem had been solved, and everyone was not ready to leave for the time being, he would naturally stay here for a while. Moreover, he also found that cultivating here was very helpful in improving his strength. Thinking of this, Emo Yunjue was about to agree. At this moment, Xiren's voice suddenly rang out. Chapter 38:12. Although Yunju and we are good friends, and it is indeed more convenient for him to join Penglai Palace, isn't it too insincere for you to ask Yunju to join just like that? When Xiren looked at Long Yanwei, the other forces have all offered all kinds of good conditions for Yunju to consider. I know that our Penglai Palace is the leader of the forces on Penglai Island, but since we have specially recruited him, we should give him some good treatment. Yunju is the first inheritor of the Demon Training Tower after 100 years. Listening to Xiren's words, Long Yanwei said helplessly, I knew from the beginning that you were up to something, but you didn't admit it. Now look, forget it. Tell me, what conditions do you want? Izihua also smiled and shook his head. Long Yanwei had completely fallen into the hands of these little guys. Although the performance of these little guys was really outstanding and gave Long Yanwei face, these little guys were not soft-hearted when it came to extorting. Thinking of this, Izihua quietly glanced at Long Yanwei. Only then did he realize that although Long Yanwei's face revealed a helpless expression, the depths of his eyes were clearly overflowing with a smile. Obviously, Long Yanwei was not unhappy about this matter. When Xiren smiled brightly and walked to Long Yanwei's side, Master Long, we won't make any excessive conditions. Yunju is a genius. Since he wants to join Penglai Palace, the treatment can't be too good, but at least it can't be worse than ours. Why don't you give him a contract beast? As his voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' eyes also fell on Long Yanwei. In fact, they were just giving it a try. If Long Yanwei could give Emo Yunjue a contract beast, it would naturally be the best. This was also what Emo Yunjue needed. However, if Long Yanwei was unwilling, Emo Yunjue still had to join Penglai Palace. They all understood in their hearts that Long Yanwei had already made an exception by being able to take 3 contract beasts from him. If Long Yanwei was unwilling, they would not force him. Long Yanwei glanced at Xiren. I knew that you guys had the idea of my demon pet egg. Presumably, before I came, you guys had already made up your mind, right? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled slightly. Long Yanwei's guess was right. They had indeed thought of all this a long time ago. Seeing that Long Yanwei wasn't angry, Emo Yunjue's smile widened a little. It seemed that this matter really had a chance. Yun's words, Yunju, you can give him a demon pet egg. Even if it's to give the demon training tower face, you can give him a demon pet egg. The smile on Xiren's face became even more brilliant. Anyway, this demon pet egg is also a reward for other disciples. It's the same. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang also said, Master Long, Yunju's strength is very outstanding. This kind of recruitment condition is actually not excessive. That's right, Master Long. You won't be disappointed. Emo Yunjue said. Emo Yunjue also cupped his hands towards Long Yanwei. Master Long, if you agree, I will join Penglai Palace. Chapter 38:13. Hearing this, Izihua couldn't help but chuckle. Then there's no other way. I can't refuse them. The demon pet egg is yours, so you can only make your own decision. Since you're all saying the same thing, if I don't agree, it would seem that I'm unreasonable. Since that's the case, then I'll agree to it, Long Yanwei said with a smile. In fact, before he set off, he had already expected such a situation. What's more, Mo Yunjue was a cultivation genius, so the conditions offered by the other forces would definitely not be bad. Even if Mo Yunjue and Bailey Hongzhuang were good friends, if they wanted to pull Mo Yunjue over without paying anything, it would indeed be a bit of ancient Buddha's kindness. He believed that the reason why the palace master asked him to come here was also because of this. Seeing that Long Yanwei directly agreed, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but have a thick smile on their faces. Thank you, Master Long, Mo Yunjue and the others said in unison. Since young Master Mo has already agreed to join the Penglai Palace, then the purpose of our trip has been achieved. Long Yanwei slowly opened his mouth. As for the demon pet egg, you can come to me to choose when you return to the Penglai Palace. How about it? Mo Yunjue nodded, cupped his hands, and said, Thank you, Master Long. You're welcome. It's what I should do. Izihua smiled as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. He felt that Long Yanwei really liked these little fellows, so when he was with them, he would make exceptions again and again. However, to be honest, these little fellows were indeed hard to dislike. When do you plan to return to the Penglai Palace? Izihua asked. After Ying breaks through, I will go with Ying to challenge the trial. After the trial is over, we will return, Wen Xiren said. Izihua's eyes flashed with understanding. Shangguan Ying should be able to break through soon, right? Yes. Xiren nodded. It should be tonight. Yanwei, since they're going back in a few days, why don't we stay here for a few more days? When the time comes, we can go back together with them. I just happen to want to take a look at the Devil Training Tower. Hearing Izihua's words, Long Yanwei replied, Sure, this Devil Training Pagoda has been very lively recently. This time, you guys have successfully passed the Demon Training Tower. This is a big limelight. Now, in the entire Penglai Palace, you guys are in the limelight. If this continues, some disciples of the Inner Palace will be dissatisfied. You have only joined the Penglai Palace for a few months, and almost all the hot news is related to you. Izihua's eyes swept over Bailey Hongzhuang and the others one by one. What he said was really true. The matter of Bailey Hongzhuang's healing medicine was not over yet, and now there was such news. In the past few months, every sensational news was caused by them. You can't blame us for this. Bailey Hongzhuang spread her hands. Actually, they were very innocent. From the beginning to the end, they did not want to be in the limelight. It was just that in the end, this matter fell on their heads. This matter was caused by Master Long. If we attract public anger, Master Long will have to help us. Bei Chen's lips slowly hooked up into an evil smile. Speaking of which, if Long Yuan Wei had not recruited them back, there would not have been so many things that would have happened. Chapter 38:14. All of a sudden, the atmosphere in the room became extremely harmonious. Long Yanwei and Izihua were not arrogant people. In addition, they had a very familiar relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang and others. Everyone didn't care at all. I heard that you issued a bounty to take Chu Yunyao's life. Izihua looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. This matter was very loud. When the bounty was just issued, the entire Penglai Palace also broke out in a frenzy. No one expected that Bailey Hongzhuang would have a conflict with Chu Yunyao, and Bailey Hongzhuang's bounty was issued so blatantly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Yes, I have some grudges with Chu Yunyao. I didn't mean to stop you. I just heard the news and wanted to confirm it with you. Izihua said. What happened in Qingshan before is also related to you, right? Bailey Hongzhuang and others looked at each other and admitted it. Izihua had always been well informed. No matter what the news was, it could not be hidden from him. Since he asked now, he must have already confirmed the news. This bounty is extremely effective for hunting down the cultivators outside the forces, but it is not so easy to deal with the cultivators inside the forces. As long as Chu Yunyao does not leave the Penglai Palace, the possibility of the success of this bounty is very small. Long Yanwei reminded. He was no stranger to Chu Yunyao. This woman's strength was good, but she always liked to cause trouble, and the trouble she caused was not small. In contrast, he felt that Chu Yunyao's sister Chu Yunshang was much better. Hearing the concern in Long Yanwei's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression softened a little. "Thank you for your concern, Master Long, but I didn't intend to take her life through this bounty. I just gave her a warning first. As for the real end of the grudge, I have to do it myself." Her ink-black, phoenix-like eyes flashed with a cold and resolute light. Chu Yinyao tortured Shangwan Yingying like that and seriously injured her. If she didn't get back at her, it would not be her style. Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua also understood the meaning behind Bailey Hongzhuang's words. It seemed that the enmity between the two of them could not be resolved. "Forget it. You can deal with the matters between you disciples yourselves. We won't interfere." Yi Zihua smiled faintly. "You guys should rest well. We'll go take a look at the other places in the demon training tower." After Long Yanwei and the other two left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three sat in the house with joyful smiles on their faces. "I didn't think that Master Long would agree so easily this time. I thought it would take some effort." When Xiren chuckled, he had always heard that Long Yanwei was very stingy when it came to demon pet eggs. It was too difficult for ordinary people to get a demon pet egg from him. However, in his opinion, Master Long was very generous. "Thank you so much for this matter. If you didn't speak, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to obtain this demon pet egg." Mo Yunjue cupped his fists and thanked him. With his personality, he would never ask for help. Therefore, even though when Xiren had already told him that he could raise this condition, he did not say it out loud. Chapter 38:15. Listening to Mo Yunjue's words, when Xiren waved his hand and said, "You're welcome. We are all friends. There is no need to thank me for such a small thing. It's your first time meeting Master Long and the others, so it's not good for you to ask. However, we're already familiar with Master Long. Although Master Long usually acts very stingy, he's actually not stingy. He's especially very generous to cultivators with strength." Although Xiren often extorted Master Long, in fact, he valued Master Long very much in his heart. He knew very well that Master Long was very tolerant of them. If not, Master Long would not have helped them time and time again. If Master Long did not want to agree, even if he tried his best to extort him, it would be useless. In the end, this was Master Long's own idea. "Hongzhuang, it seems that your bounty this time is not small. The entire Penglai Palace already knows about it. Presumably, Chu Yinyao must be very depressed now. The effect you want has been achieved." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, with a faint smile on her lips. "Chu Yinyao has brought us so much trouble. Naturally, we can't let her be happy. Let her suffer during this time. When we go back, she will not be as simple as suffering." At night, as Xiren expected, Shangwan Yingying successfully broke through to the 7th level of the Purple Realm. "I finally succeeded in breaking through." A happy smile appeared on Shangwan Yingying's face. She quickly walked out of the house and couldn't wait to tell Bailey Hongzhuang the news of her breakthrough. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled and congratulated them. "Then tomorrow you can go to the challenge area to try it out." Shangwan Yingying nodded. "I also want to see how perverted the content of the challenge is. If I can pass it, that would be great. Let's do our best." Xiren smiled casually, but there was a firm and persistent light in the depths of his eyes. When he was in the blood-refining tower, he was unable to obtain the inheritance. This time he came to the demon-refining tower. He hoped that he could succeed once. "After you are done, we can return to the Penglai Palace." When Shangwan Yingying found out that Long Yanwei had personally come to recruit Yunjue, her eyes flashed with deep surprise. "Yunjue, I never thought that you would actually have such face to be able to make Lord Long personally come to recruit you. I'm sure that when we return, the treatment will definitely not be bad. Although you are temporarily an outer disciple after going to Penglai Palace, I believe that you will soon be promoted to an inner disciple. After all, your strength is enough," Di Beichun said slowly. The next day, at dawn, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others headed to the challenge area. When they arrived at the challenge area, they found that it was already filled with cultivators. In the past few days, more and more people had come to the challenge area. Now, if they wanted to go through the challenge area, they had to queue up. Upon realizing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others felt helpless. The challenge area is really too popular now. It seems that you will have to wait for a while before you can go in. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Before this, the challenge area had always been very deserted. There was no need to wait at all. Chapter 38:16. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others appeared in the trial area, everyone's gazes fell on them. Right now, they were all popular figures in the demon training tower. Everyone wanted to get close to them, but unfortunately, ever since they succeeded in passing the trial, they had been cultivating and did not appear at all. Not only that, the demon training tower had also made a rule that they were not allowed to casually disturb Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Thus, even if they wanted to get close to them, they could only watch from the side and not dare to disturb them. I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to come here again. It seems that this time, it should be when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying are going to break through. You guessed right, they're all here to break through. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have succeeded, they must have told the secret to when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying. Maybe they can also succeed this time. I don't really believe that. The assessment of the demon training tower is aimed at the heart of a cultivator. If the heart is not strong enough to break through the demon barrier, then it will be impossible to succeed. The so-called experience is actually not very useful. That's true. Everyone nodded their heads. There were already many cultivators present who had tried to pass the trial, so they had a certain understanding of the content of the trial. It was just that they were unable to succeed the first time, so they tried many times in a row but still failed. Not long after, it was when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's turn. We're going in. Good luck, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others said together. After when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying entered the trial area, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others waited outside the trial. It was hard to say whether or not when Xiren and his companion would succeed. In any case, they planned to wait here for the next 3 days. This way, if they succeeded, they would be able to share the joy immediately. After Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua strolled around the demon training tower, they went to see Steward Qin. When Steward Qin saw the two of them, he was very envious. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were all disciples of the Penglai Palace. This was truly a glorious moment. Although they had been in the limelight in the Magic Tower recently, the cultivators who had obtained the inheritance all came from the Penglai Palace. It could be assumed that the Penglai Palace's glory was no less than the Magic Tower's. It was a pity that the main purpose of the demonic training tower was to allow cultivators to come here to challenge the challenges, as there was no sect here. Otherwise, he would have already recruited Bailey Hongzhuang and the others into his sect. While Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were waiting in the challenge area, Ao Lingxiao, who had disappeared for a few days, finally appeared in front of them. Seeing Ao Lingxiao's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but smile. Xiren and the others have already started? Ao Lingxiao asked. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right. They just went in today. By the way, you've been busy cultivating these few days. Yesterday, Master Long and Minter came over. Now, Yinju is also a disciple of our Penglai Palace. Master Long and the others came personally. Ao Lingxiao was very surprised. He had stayed in the Penglai Palace for a period of time, so he naturally knew that Master Long and Minter didn't need to personally come to recruit disciples. Chapter 38:17. Yes, I didn't expect Master Long and the others to come personally. Even we were very surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. It seemed that the cultivators who obtained the inheritance of the Demon Training Pagoda had always been valued by the major forces. With Mo Yunjue's strength, it's normal for him to receive such treatment. Ao Lingxiao smiled and turned his gaze to Mo Yunjue. With your current strength, no matter which sect you join, you will be valued more. Even on the Penglai Island, there are very few cultivators in the Star Realm. The Penglai Palace is already the largest force on the Penglai Island. It's naturally great that I can join. Mo Yunjue's eyes rippled with a trace of light. In fact, it didn't matter to him which force he joined. He only came here to meet up with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. It was naturally excellent to be able to improve his strength. He also knew very well that he would not stay in the Penglai Palace forever. At this time, Ao Lingxiao's gaze turned to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun and said, Di Beichun, I have something to tell you. Hearing this, Di Beichun looked at Ao Lingxiao in surprise, but still nodded and said, Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Ao Lingxiao thoughtfully. Earlier, she felt that Ao Lingxiao seemed to have something to tell them, but was interrupted by the appearance of Steward Qin. Now, Ao Lingxiao specially came to find Di Beichun. Could it be that he wanted to tell them the reason why he had been following them all this time? Yunjue, then we will leave for a while. Di Beichun said. Mo Yunjue nodded. You guys go. When Di Beichun left, he also pulled Bailey Hongzhuang with him. For him, there was no news that he couldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang know. Ao Lingxiao was not surprised to see Di Beichun's actions. After all, he had always seen the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. These two people had no secrets to speak of. Even in the entire Penglai Island, there were very few couples who had such a good relationship like them. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two returned to the house, Di Beichun looked at Ao Lingxiao and said, Just say what you want to say. Ao Lingxiao's expression was complicated as he looked at Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang. He did not immediately speak, but fell into silence. In fact, until now, he did not know what to say. Di Beichun, I want to confirm something with you first. If it is confirmed, then I will say it. If not, then my judgment is wrong. Ao Lingxiao said. Di Beichun nodded slightly and said, Okay, say it. I want to ask, since you were born, have you always been with your parents? As soon as the words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun could not help but look at each other. A touch of surprise appeared in their eyes. They did not expect that Ao Lingxiao wanted to confirm his question. Could it be that what he wanted to say was related to Di Beichun's background? Thinking of this possibility, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun's expressions became more dignified. After all, this matter had always been of great concern to them. Unfortunately, after such a long time, they could not find any clues related to Di Beichun's background. Chapter 38:18. Ao Lingxiao didn't miss the shocked expressions on Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang's faces. His eyes brightened. It seemed that his guess was somewhat credible. I've never met my parents. I was adopted by my master. Di Beichun spoke slowly in a deep voice. Why are you asking me this question? Actually, this is just my guess. Ao Lingxiao's expression was somewhat complicated. From the first time I saw you, I felt that your appearance was somewhat familiar. Familiar? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes brightened. Where have you seen someone who looks like Beichun? Di Beichun's appearance was so outstanding that there weren't many people who could look like him. If Ao Lingxiao had seen someone who looked like Di Beichun somewhere else, perhaps that person was Di Beichun's relative. That's someone from the Di family. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun couldn't help but look at each other. If that person's surname was really Di, then there really was some possibility. After all, the only keepsake Di Beichun had on him was the jade pendant with the word Di written on it. Back then, Sitin had guessed that the words written on the jade pendant might be Di Beichun's surname, so he named Di Beichun. Could it be that the Di family was really Di Beichun's family? Ao Lingxiao saw that Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang's faces were filled with doubt. In his heart, he knew that Di Beichun must be very curious about his background. If he only felt that Di Beichun's appearance was somewhat similar to that of the Di family's people, then it was fine. But Di Beichun was actually adopted, then perhaps his guess might be right. My clan has a certain relationship with the Di clan. In the past, I've seen a portrait of a senior of the Di clan in my clan. The person in that portrait was extremely similar to Di Beichun. As he spoke, Ao Lingxiao's gaze landed on Di Beichun. Because of this, I was very surprised when I first saw you. However, I also know that my baseless guess is very laughable and has no basis to speak of, so I've been following you all this time to confirm this point. Just because you feel that I look similar to the elders of the D clan, you feel that I'm a member of the D clan? Di Baichen frowned. If Ao Ling Xiao had any other evidence, he might have believed it. However, it was a bit too ridiculous to confirm this based on the similarity of their appearances. After all, there are so many people in this world, and there were definitely a lot of people who looked alike, but there was no blood relationship between them. Ao Ling Xiao shook his head. No, it's not just that. What else? Bailey Hongzhuang quickly asked. This was Di Baichen's obsession. She had always hoped to help Di Baichen find his birth parents. Now that she finally had some clues, she naturally wouldn't want to give up. Actually, the Di family lost a child more than 20 years ago. That child was the grandson of the head of the Di family. Ao Ling Xiao said slowly. Ao Ling Xiao said slowly. All these years, the Di family has been searching for his whereabouts. However, there's been no news. This is something that we all know. The Di family has almost searched everywhere, but there is no trace of him. Chapter 38:19. The Di family is a family of cultivators. The grandson of the head of the family must be a genius cultivator. Hearing Ao Ling Xiao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen were confused. Everything Ao Ling Xiao said could be connected to Di Baichen. However, there should be many cultivators who fit this description. How could they be sure that this was related to Di Baichen? All these years, I have been trying to find my birth parents. However, although the things you said seem to be related to me, there is no evidence to prove it. Di Baichen's deep black eyes flashed with the light of thinking. He didn't lose his mind just because Ao Ling Xiao said that this matter was related to him. Thinking about it carefully, this was just a side issue. It seemed to be related, but in reality, it was just a clue that couldn't withstand a single blow. Ao Ling Xiao also knew that what he said wasn't that trustworthy. However, he had an extraordinary intuition. Although there was no reason for this intuition, it was always very accurate. He felt that Di Baichen was the person he was looking for. Actually, there is one more thing that can be confirmed. Ao Ling Xiao muttered. What is it? Bailey Hongzhuang asked aloud, her ink-black phoenix eyes flashing with deep concern. If she could really be sure, then that would be great. I wonder if you have heard of the cursed body? After Ao Ling Xiao said this, he felt a little complicated. Actually, this was the proof that could confirm whether Di Baichen was related to the Di family. However, even he felt that this possibility wasn't very high. As Ao Ling Xiao's voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen were both stunned. Their faces were filled with disbelief and astonishment. Apart from them, this was the first time they had heard of the cursed body from another cultivator. Ao Ling Xiao naturally noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen's expressions. He couldn't help but ask, "You have heard of it?" At this moment, even Ao Ling Xiao found it hard to believe. The cursed body was an extremely rare body type. He felt that outside of Penglai Island, many people had never even heard of the existence of such a body type. If Bailey Hongzhuang and the others hadn't confirmed that Ao Ling Xiao had never heard of Di Baichen's cursed physique, they wouldn't have believed that there was such a coincidence. Di Baichen nodded. That's right. He didn't directly say that he had the cursed physique. Instead, he looked at Ao Ling Xiao. He wanted to know what Ao Ling Xiao would say next. As far as I know, the lost child of the Di family has the cursed body. In fact, this had always been a characteristic of the Di family. Their family would often have cultivators with the cursed physique. The cursed physique was a very complicated physique. In the early stages of cultivation, it would suppress the cultivation speed of the cultivator. However, if the later stages were to transform into the heavenly mandate physique, then the cultivator would soar to the sky. It was precisely because of this that the Di family was able to have such an amazing status. However, if the cultivator couldn't transform the physique, then the cultivator would gradually become paralyzed and eventually die. In the past, the Di family hadn't mastered this method. However, ever since they successfully transformed the cursed physique into the heavenly mandate physique, their family had rapidly improved. Chapter 3820. If Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were still doubtful of Ao Lingxiao's judgment, they were now certain that Di Beichun might really be related to the Di family after hearing Ao Lingxiao's words. After all, if it was just based on looks, it could still be a coincidence. However, if the cursed body was the same, it could not be explained by mere coincidence. At that moment, Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang's feelings were complicated. Bailey Hongzhuang did not expect to find clues about Di Beichun's background here. It was really a pleasant surprise. Most importantly, according to Ao Lingxiao's words, Di Beichun's parents definitely did not abandon him on purpose. Otherwise, they would not have been searching for him all these years. This was the best news for them. She had been with Beichun for so long, so she understood Beichun's thoughts very well. In comparison, if Beichun's parents really abandoned him on purpose, then he would rather not find Beichun's parents, so as not to add to his sadness. However, if it was not on purpose, then it should be a great comfort to Beichun. After all, no one would want to be abandoned. After Ao Lingxiao finished speaking, he realized that Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang had fallen into silence. It was as if they were thinking about their own matters and did not answer his question. Seeing this, Ao Lingxiao was a little confused. He did not know if his guess was right or wrong. From Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang's expressions, he could not determine any useful information. Di Beichun's feelings were even more complicated. He had always been curious about his own background, especially after learning about Bailey Hongzhuang's life. He also had some expectations in his heart. He hoped that he was also left behind because of some forced reasons and not deliberately abandoned. Although he had not met anyone from the Di family yet, according to Ao Lingxiao's information, he felt that he could be the lost child of the Di family. However, this was the first time he had heard of the Di family. Actually, I have the cursed body. Di Beichun slowly spoke in a deep voice. He raised his head and looked at Ao Lingxiao. His eyes were as deep as the sea, shining brightly. Following Di Beichun's words, Ao Lingxiao could not help but be stunned. He stared at Di Beichun in a daze and could not recover for a moment. However, after he confirmed that he did not hear wrongly, a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. Your body physique is really the cursed body. Ao Lingxiao's gaze was fixed on Di Beichun's body. He was afraid that Di Beichun would deny it. If Di Beichun really had the cursed body, then he could say that Di Beichun was the Di family's lost young master. Di Beichun nodded. That's right. At this moment, Di Beichun finally understood why he had such a special body physique. It turned out that this was the special characteristic of the Di family. However, Ao Lingxiao could not help but frown. From what I know, the cursed body physique is an extremely rare body physique. Only the Di family has the solution to it. Logically speaking, with your current age and strength, you should not be able to stand up again. However, you're still fine. Chapter 3821. This is all thanks to my wife. Di Beichun turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. His gaze was so gentle that it could overflow with tears. To tell you the truth, when I first met Hongzhuang, I could only sit in a wheelchair. I had thought that I would never be able to stand up again. It was Hongzhuang who healed me and gave me the chance to stand up again. This was something that Di Beichun would never forget. Back then, it was Bailey Hongzhuang who had given him hope. He could still remember the beautiful white figure who had healed him under the peach blossom tree. His wife had slowly walked into his heart from that moment onwards. At the same time, it was also from that moment onwards that he had decided that he would walk down this path with his wife for the rest of his life. Now that he recalled everything that had happened in Fengbo country, the corners of his lips could not help but curl into a smile. Even though they had been through many trials and tribulations together, it was a good thing that they were finally able to hold hands and accompany each other. Noticing the look in Di Beichun's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile blossomed like a flower. To her, the general's residence in Fengbo country was a place that she loathed the most. However, because of Di Beichun's existence, she could only remember the good times and completely forget the unbearable memories of the past. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Ao Lingxiao finally came to his senses. Bailey Hongzhuang was an outstanding doctor with exceptional medical skills. This was evident from the healing medicine that Bailey Hongzhuang had concocted. She had only been to the training grounds of the Inner Palace once, yet she was able to concoct such an effective healing medicine. This showed just how amazing her medical skills were. In that case, it was very possible that Bailey Hongzhuang had cured Di Beichen of his cursed body. I see. Ao Lingxiao stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. I never thought that junior sister Bailey would be able to cure the cursed body. I'm truly in awe of you. The cursed physique was an extremely difficult physique to break. According to what he knew, back then, the Di family had spent a lot of effort to solve this problem. In the end, they had succeeded in solving this problem. Logically speaking, it was impossible for the outside world to know of the existence of the cursed body. However, not only was Bailey Hongzhuang able to diagnose Di Beichen at such a young age, but she had also helped Di Beichen change his physique. She was truly extraordinary. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Senior brother Ao, you flatter me. Is there a Di clan on Penglai Island? Why haven't I heard of it before? Di Beichen couldn't help but ask. Even though there were all sorts of big and small forces on Penglai Island, according to what he knew, the forces here were all sects and not aristocratic families. Actually, the Supreme Di clan isn't here. Ao Lingxiao spoke. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Could it be in the outside world? According to what she knew, there wasn't a Supreme Di clan in the outside world. If there really was one, her grandfather would have already gone to ask about it. It was impossible that there wasn't any news about Di Beichen until now. Could it be that it was a very small clan, so her grandfather didn't notice it? No. Ao Lingxiao shook his head. The Supreme Di clan is in a place that is even more powerful than Penglai Island, the upper realm. The moment he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but be stunned. Their faces flashed with intense astonishment. What? There's a place that's even more powerful than Penglai Island? Chapter 38:22. Hearing this news, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. This was beyond their expectations. When they first learned that there was a place called Penglai Island, they were already very surprised. Now that they heard from Ao Lingxiao that there was an even more powerful place, they were truly astonished. Actually, Penglai Island is just an intermediate station between the upper realm and the outside world. When the cultivators from the outside world reach a certain level of strength, they can come to Penglai Island and go to the upper realm. In the past, Penglai Island was just an island with very few cultivators. It was just a passage. However, as the number of the skeleton army gradually increased, the upper realm was worried that it would affect the lives of the people from the outside world. So, they gathered some cultivators here. Over time, Penglai Island gradually expanded to become what it is now. So that's how it is. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen suddenly understood. The upper realm is actually not much different from the outside world. It's just that the cultivators there are much stronger. When the forces that controlled the power of darkness appeared, the entire Shengxian continent was in chaos. Wars broke out everywhere, and countless experts fell. Since that war, the structure of the Shengxian continent changed. It was divided into the upper realm and the outer realm. This is because when the war broke out, the major forces worked together to separate the two continents in order to protect the ordinary people from being implicated. So, the outer realm you were in before was just the ordinary people in the past. It's just that after so many years, it has become what it is now. I didn't expect it to be like this. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a light of surprise. He never thought that the Shengxian continent would have such a change. He thought that the place he lived in before was the most vast world. Now, he knew that it was not like that at all. It was just a corner of the world. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a bright light. She felt that the current Shengxian continent was very strange. 1,000 years ago, the cultivators in the Shengxian continent were clearly much stronger than they were now. She was wondering why, after such a long time, the cultivator's strength had not improved. Instead, it had regressed. It turned out that this was the most fundamental reason. If that was the case, then it was very likely that the powerful beings she was familiar with were currently in the upper realm. Then would the Bailey family still exist? Back then, she had left because of an accident. Now that 1,000 years had passed, he didn't know if she was still around. Previously, when we asked Master Long about this matter, Master Long only said that we hadn't reached that level yet, so he wouldn't tell us for now. Senior Brother Ao, how do you know all this? Bailey Hongzhuang's clear and beautiful eyes gazed at Ao Lingxiao. She secretly thought in her heart, as early as when she first met Ao Lingxiao, she felt that this Ao Lingxiao was very strange. It seems that Ao Lingxiao's identity was not simple. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to know so many things. Hearing this, Ao Lingxiao glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun and said, "To be honest, I was originally from the upper realm." As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. Di Beichun hurriedly went to help Ao Lingxiao up. What Ao Lingxiao was doing was completely different from what he usually did. However, Ao Lingxiao was still kneeling on the ground, unwilling to get up. Chapter 38:24. Di Beichun couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. They thought it was a good thing to be able to find some clues about Ao Lingxiao's background. They didn't expect such a thing to happen. Bailey Hongzhuang also frowned. Judging from Ao Lingxiao's expression, she knew it wasn't a simple matter. She wasn't unfamiliar with such a thing. After all, she had taken back the Lan clan with her parents. If they didn't have enough strength, it would be impossible to accomplish such a thing. Moreover, the aristocratic families of the upper realm were obviously very powerful. It was impossible for them to accomplish such a thing. Even if Di Beichun became a member of the Di family, he couldn't ask the entire Di family to help Ao Lingxiao take back the Lan clan. The Di family wouldn't be willing to do that. Senior Brother Ao, it's not that we don't want to help you. It's just that we don't have the strength to do it. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She looked a little troubled. Previously, she felt that Ao Lingxiao was always in a bad mood. Something must have happened to him with such a strange temperament. At this moment, after knowing all of this, she felt that this matter was extraordinarily heavy. I'm not forcing you. It's just that I can't see any hope other than you guys. If you can't help me when the time comes, then forget it. If you can, I beg you to help me. From now on, my life is yours. Ao Lingxiao looked very serious. He had already thought it through. As long as Di Beichun agreed, he would follow Di Beichun's lead in the future. Looking at Ao Lingxiao, Di Beichun pondered for a moment. Although he hadn't known Ao Lingxiao for long, he knew that Ao Lingxiao was a trustworthy person. Thinking about it, Ao Lingxiao's current personality most likely had something to do with what happened back then. It was probably also related to his obsession that he couldn't pass the test. Senior Brother Ao, get up first. Di Beichun said in a low voice. You have to tell me what happened to your family before I decide whether to help you or not. If Ao Lingxiao was truly harmed by a scoundrel, then as a friend, he would do his best to help. If that wasn't the case, then he naturally couldn't help. Seeing that Di Beichun had agreed, Ao Lingxiao understood that it was inappropriate for him to ask for Di Beichun's help. He immediately stood up and said, Okay, actually, I'm from the Upper Realms Ao clan. Speaking of which, my clan has quite a bit of relationship with the Supreme Clan. Hearing this, Di Beichun and Ao Lingxiao didn't find it strange. If they didn't have some connections, Ao Lingxiao wouldn't have thought that Di Beichun was a member of the Di family just by looking at his appearance. My father was the clan lord of Ao clan, but he was suddenly killed 2 years ago. At that time, my elder brother and I were very surprised. We only wanted to find my father's murderer and avenge him. However, my father had already passed away at that time, so the clan couldn't do without a clan lord. Therefore, everyone began to elect a new clan lord. My strength was stronger than my elder brother's. My father had also intended to pass the position of clan lord to me when he was still alive. Everyone in the clan knew this. Therefore, everything was logical. However, when I was about to ascend to the position of clan lord, an unforeseen event occurred in the clan. Chapter 38:25. At this point, Ao Lingxiao's eyes suddenly surged with anger. His eyes suddenly turned red as he gritted his teeth and said, "That day, I still didn't know what had happened, but I found out that my mother had suddenly died. When I felt it, my mother was already on her last breath. She looked at me like that. Finally, she said my brother's name. I never thought that in order to obtain the patriarch's position, my big brother would even lay his hands on my mother. When I heard the news, I couldn't believe it. Before I could react, my brother had already brought all the elders of the family here and said that I had killed my mother because the dagger that had pierced my mother's body was the one that I used most of the time. But only I knew that 2 days ago, my brother had said that he wanted to take a look and then took the dagger away. I didn't think much of it at that time. Who would have thought that it was my brother's plot? In order to become the head of the family, my brother had colluded with the June family and caused some of our family's properties to fall into the hands of the June family. However, my brother pushed all the blame to me and said that I was the one who had colluded with the June family. For this reason, he had arranged all kinds of evidence. The people of the June family also pointed out that I was the one who had done it. At that time, I couldn't defend myself. In the face of all kinds of evidence, my explanation was powerless. Since then, I had become a traitor in the eyes of the family. All the elders hated me even more. After doing this, my brother still wasn't satisfied and wanted to take my life. It was my wet nurse who secretly let me out. In the entire family, only she believed me. She believed that I wasn't the one who had done it. As for the matter of looking for you, it was also my wet nurse who told me. A trace of emotion flashed in Ao Ling Zhao's eyes. The expression of anger on his face was abnormally strong. Even though this whole thing had happened 2 years ago, to him, it was as if it had happened yesterday. It was still vivid in his mind, and he couldn't forget it. After this incident, I knew that my father's death was definitely related to the June family. All these years, the June family had always wanted to strengthen themselves, so they tried to annex all kinds of small families. Back then, not long after I fled, I was discovered by my big brother, Ao Lingjing. He chased me all the way. At that time, I was already exhausted. In the end, I was heavily injured by him. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to escape. However, since then, my cultivation has declined a lot, and I've become what I am now. As Ao Lingxiao spoke, his hands clenched into fists. In the past 2 years, I have been staying in Penglai Palace, but I have never forgotten about this matter. Taking back the clan is not the most important thing, but I must kill this bastard and avenge my parents. His dark eyes were bloodshot. Ao Lingxiao was filled with righteous indignation. His expression was pained, and there were tears at the corners of his eyes. He could not tolerate such a person continuing to be free and unfettered. His parents had raised him, but he had done such a thing that was worse than a pig or a dog. If he couldn't avenge his parents, then there was no justice in this world. Chapter 38:26. After Bailey Hongzhuang heard Ao Lingxiao's story, the two of them couldn't help but sigh. Killing one's own father and mother was something they couldn't imagine. If what Ao Lingxiao said was true, then Ao Lingjing was truly insane. They were only outsiders. When they heard all this, they couldn't bear it, let alone Ao Lingxiao, who had to bear it all. No wonder Ao Lingxiao had always been alone. He didn't associate with anyone. Even his closest big brother had done such a thing. How can anyone else be trusted? If all that you say is true, he said softly. Di Baichen looked at Ao Lingxiao. When I have the ability, I will lend you a hand. He finally understood Ao Lingxiao's pain. No one would be able to accept such a thing, especially when he saw his own mother lying in a pool of blood. It was too cruel for him to admit that it was his elder brother who did it. Bailey Hongzhuang always felt that Lan Jingquang was insane. He was willing to kill his own brother for the position of house head. However, compared to A.O. Lingxiao's brother, Lan Jingquang was much better. At least, Lan Jingquang didn't kill his own parents. Even if his grandfather didn't pass the position of house head to Lan Jingquang never thought of killing him. Not only that, Lan Jingquang didn't collude with anyone. He only wanted power. On the contrary, A.O. Lingjing was insane. He would do anything to get what he wanted. This kind of person wasn't fit to be called a human. A.O. Lingxiao's eyes lit up at Di Beichen's words. He looked at Di Beichen with excitement. Really? You're willing to help me? Di Beichen nodded. Yes. You believe what I said? I haven't known you for long, but I believe in your character. Di Beichen said. With Di Beichen's words, A.O. Lingxiao felt as if his heart had been violently struck by something. An emotion called gratitude rose in his heart, almost causing him to cry. For the past 2 years, he had been silently enduring this pain and had never told anyone about it. This pain had been suppressed for too long. Under this pain, he simply could not be truly happy. If he didn't get his revenge, he would be like a walking corpse for the rest of his life. In fact, he also knew that if he were to ask Di Beichen for help so rashly, most people would not agree. If he were in Di Beichen's shoes, he probably would not agree either. After all, they had only known each other for a short while. There was no trust between them. However, Di Beichen actually said that he believed him. A.O. Lingxiao was willing to go through water and tread on fire for Di Beichen. It had only been 2 years, but it felt like 20 years to him. It had been a long time since he had come into contact with the Murlocs, and he had never thought that anyone would be willing to believe him. For a moment, A.O. Lingxiao was so emotional that he couldn't speak. He had secretly made up his mind. Whether Di Beichen was a member of the Di family or not, he would become friends with him. Just based on his trust, he would not let him down. Chapter 38:27. He had lived in the family for so many years. He thought that everyone would believe him. However, because of A.O. Lingjing's framing, no one believed him. He could never forget that no matter how he explained, no one in the family was willing to believe him. Those people were familiar with him. However, at that moment, they didn't believe him. How sad was it that no one in the world was willing to believe him? Compared to those people whom he had always valued, Di Beichen was willing to believe him even though they had only known each other for a short time. How precious was this trust? Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised that Di Beichen would agree so directly. After all, they had only heard A.O. Ling Zhao's explanation. They didn't know much about this matter. However, since Di Beichen had made such a decision, she would support it. Actually, this matter is somewhat related to the Di family as well. A.O. Lingxiao slowly said. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. What's involved? Our A.O. family has always been on good terms with the Di family. That's because the Di family is fair and trustworthy. In comparison, the Jun family always likes to do things that cross borders. The Di family and the Jun family have always had grievances. The Jun family always wants to hurt the Di family. However, the Di family is very powerful. Although the Jun family always wants to hurt the Di family, they don't have any good opportunities. 2 years ago, the Jun family began to recruit small families in order to increase their strength. Although our A.O. family can't be compared to the Di family and the Jun family, it's not a small family. If A.O. Lingjing really relies on the Jun family, then once they join forces against the Di family, I'm afraid this matter will be very troublesome. A.O. Lingxiao looked at Di Beichen. In fact, he also felt that Di Beichen could help him regain his family. That was because as long as he took back his family, the Jun family would become his enemy. He would never allow the A.O. family to rely on the Jun family. However, he didn't expect that Di Beichen would agree before he could even mention this bargaining chip. This made him even more touched. In that case, isn't the Di family in a lot of trouble now? Di Beichen frowned. Now that he had finally found out about his past, he did not want anything to happen to the Di family. So far, I haven't heard of any changes in the Di family. However, There have been many small conflicts between the June family and the D family since a long time ago. In fact, with the D family's background, if the June family really wants to touch the D family, it won't be done in a short period of time. Therefore, you don't need to be too worried right now. Ao Lingxiao said. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She understood the situation that Ao Lingxiao was talking about. For such a huge monster, even if they were to fall, it wouldn't be something that could happen in a short period of time. Moreover, since the June family had been doing so many little things over the years, the D family would definitely know about it. They must have taken precautions. So that's how it is. D Beichin relaxed a bit. I don't know where this upper world is. How can we go there? Before today, he had never heard of the upper world. He also didn't know where the entrance was. Chapter 38:28. The entrance to the upper realm is actually at the training grounds of the Inner Palace disciples. Ao Lingxiao said. It's actually there. Bailey Hongzhuang was astonished. It was hard to imagine that a place where skeletons gathered was actually the entrance to the upper realm. Ao Lingxiao nodded. That's right, it's there. Not every cultivator can enter the upper realm. Only cultivators who have reached the Star Radiance realm and above have the qualifications to enter the upper realm. Otherwise, cultivators will not be able to pass through the barrier to enter the upper realm. In fact, if a cultivator doesn't have such powerful strength, it would be very difficult for them to reach the entrance to the upper realm from the training grounds. Generally speaking, one would need to at least be at the 9th level of the morale realm to be able to reach there. Because of this, only cultivators who have reached the 9th level of the purple realm and above on Penglai Island would know about the existence of the upper realm. Otherwise, knowing about it would only be a burden to them. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun also understood. Just as Ao Lingxiao had said, if one didn't have such a powerful strength and knew that there was such a terrifying existence in the Shengxian continent, anyone would feel a bit more pressure in their heart. This wasn't a good thing. It seems that Di Beichun and I are already able to enter the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black phoenix eyes flickered with a bright light. The corner of her mouth slowly curled into a smile. It seemed that they had made the right choice to come to the Devil Training Tower. If they didn't succeed in the Devil Training Tower, it would take them a long time to break through to the Star Radiance realm. Now that they had just found out about Di Beichin's background, they already had the qualifications to enter the upper realm. This way, they could quickly head to the D family to confirm Di Beichin's identity. Di Beichin also nodded. Now that he knew his true identity, he also wanted to head to the D family to confirm it. If he was really a member of the D family, then he could be considered to have found his own identity. Not to mention, according to Ao Lingxiao, the D clan had been searching for him for so many years. It seemed that the reunion of the D clan was something worth celebrating. Now, I can only hope that Ying and Xiren will be able to successfully pass the trial. That way, their cultivations will also be able to rise to the astral boundary. Then, we can head to the upper realm together. Bailey Hongzhuang was excited. Presumably, when Xiren and Shangwan Ying would be very happy after hearing the news. However, Ao Lingxiao revealed a troubled expression. I'm afraid I can't go to the upper realm for now. Why? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She was puzzled. Previously, I was heavily injured, and my strength regressed too much. Now, I have yet to recover to the Starlight Realm in such a short time. Ao Lingxiao had a difficult look on his face. This was something he was most unwilling to face. Originally, his cultivation was much higher than Ao Lingjing's. Ao Lingjing also knew this point, so he intentionally drugged him, causing his cultivation to drop a lot. Now, he actually didn't even have the qualifications to return to the upper realm. Thinking about it, ever since he came to Penglai Island, he didn't see Ao Lingjing chasing after him. He understood that this should be one of Ao Lingjing's plans. As long as he couldn't return to the upper realm, then he would never have any hope of taking back his family. Chapter 38:29. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but stare blankly at Ao Ling Zhao's words. They hadn't thought that there would be such a problem. After all, Ao Ling Zhao was the former clan lord of the Ao clan. Needless to say, he was very powerful. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been qualified for such a position. Even though he was seriously injured, they hadn't thought that Ao Ling Zhao's cultivation would decline so much. If it wasn't for the fact that my cultivation couldn't recover and I couldn't enter the upper world, I wouldn't have stayed on Penglai Island for 2 years. I would have gone to find Ao Ling Jing to take revenge. Ao Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with resentment. Ao Ling Jing had destroyed everything. He had gone against his father's original intention and colluded with the Jun clan. He was a traitor to the clan. As long as he had the chance, he would never let Ao Ling Jing do such a thing. He had even thought that as long as he killed Ao Ling Jing, at least the clan would continue to exist. Otherwise, with the Jun clan's ambition, they might annex the Ao clan at any time. You've been mistaken as a traitor to the clan. With your current strength, you can't get close to Ao Ling Jing. It's better not to be impulsive. It's better to cultivate properly and wait for the right opportunity. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. She could understand the anger in Ao Ling Zhao's heart. But this was definitely not a wise move. Fortunately, Ao Ling Zhao's strength hadn't reached the Starlight Realm. Otherwise, he would have disappeared from this world long ago. Since Ao Ling Jing could kill his father and mother, killing Ao Ling Zhao wouldn't be a problem for him. Ao Ling Zhao sighed. Indeed, with my current appearance, I'm no different from a cripple. He couldn't help but loosen his hands. His complexion was very dejected. He wanted to take revenge for his parents. But, with his current strength, he couldn't even get close to Ao Ling Jing. For a gentleman to take revenge, 10 years is not too late. Don't be too anxious. Bailey Hongzhuang comforted. Even if Ao Ling Jing wants to rely on the Jun clan, the relationship between the Jun clan and the Ao clan isn't good. It won't be easy for him to promote cooperation between the two. At the very least, he absolutely cannot push this matter too quickly. Otherwise, it will inevitably arouse the suspicions of the people in your family. Therefore, for a short period of time, he will know his place. You don't have to worry. Hongzhuang is right. Since your big brother wants to be the patriarch of the Ao clan, then he will definitely be very careful in his actions. The scene that you imagine will not happen so quickly, so you still have time to change everything. I hope so. Ao Ling Zhao nodded. It was precisely because he knew this that he was able to endure until now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to restrain his temper. However, 2 years had already passed, and he still couldn't enter the Upper Realms Gate. This feeling was driving him crazy. However, senior brother Ao still can't enter the Upper Realm. What should we do? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Di Beichen. She hoped that Di Beichen could reunite with his family as soon as possible. According to Ao Ling Zhao, breaking through to the Starlight Realm wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. If they stayed here and waited for Ao Ling Zhao to break through, then it would be hard to say how long it would take. At this time, Ao Ling Zhao took the lead and said, "You can go ahead first. When I recover my strength, I will go find you." Chapter 3830. In any case, Ao Ling Zhao wouldn't be able to take back the Ao family in a short period of time. Di Beichen was the first to go and meet his family. This would help Ao Ling Zhao lay a good foundation when the time came. Otherwise, it would be almost impossible to help Ao Ling Zhao take back the Ao family with just a few of them. Senior brother Ao, if we go first, then you have to cultivate harder and try to recover as soon as possible, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a faint smile. Previously, I didn't know why Ao Ling Zhao approached them, so they were always on guard. Now that she knew everything, she was completely relaxed. They were closer than before, without the estrangement from before. Because of Di Beichen's promise, Ao Ling Zhao also felt relieved. At the very least, his path to taking back his family was no longer as hopeless as before. Perhaps he really would succeed one day. Thinking of this, Ao Ling Zhao's face finally showed a trace of a smile. I will try my best to recover as soon as possible. Since that incident, his life's goal had been to take back the Ao family. He wouldn't let his family be deceived by Ao Ling Jing, and he wouldn't let the Jun family scheme succeed. For this, he didn't care what price he had to pay. After saying all this, Ao Ling Xiao left. In the past, because he couldn't see any hope in his cultivation, he was a little lazy. Now that he finally found a glimmer of hope, he wanted to cultivate in seclusion and increase his cultivation as soon as possible. As long as his cultivation recovered, his hope of taking back the Ao family would be closer. After all, if he wanted to deal with Ao Lingjing personally, he had to be strong enough. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to avenge his parents. After Ao Ling Xiao left, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. Beichen, do you believe senior brother Ao SX's words so much? Di Beichen nodded. Although Ao Ling Xiao and I have not known each other for a long time, I also know that he is not a crazy person. Even if he really wants me to help him take back his family, there is no need for him to make up something like killing his parents. Since he said so, this matter must exist. When the time comes, we can ask around and find out. Do you think Ao Ling Xiao is the kind of person who would kill his parents? Bailey Hongzhuang heard this and shook her head. No. Bailey Hongzhuang's answer was very certain. Even if she couldn't guarantee that she was 100% accurate, she believed that Ling Xiao wasn't the kind of person who would do such a crazy thing. So, Di Beichun spread his hands. Since we all feel that he is not such a person, then the possibility that what he said is true is very high. I didn't expect Ao Ling Xiao to have experienced something like this. No wonder he is so reclusive now. If it was anyone else who had experienced something like this, their temperament would have changed. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed and shook her head. She could imagine Ao Ling Xiao's incredulous expression when he found out about this. It was really like a heavy blow. Chapter 38-31. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded in agreement. After listening to Ao Ling Zhao's story, she felt that Ao Ling Jing was a very scary person. After all, there weren't many evil people in this world who could reach such a level. Not only that, but he was able to arrange all kinds of evidence so seamlessly that the entire Ao family didn't believe Ao Ling Xiao. It could be seen how meticulous he was. Ao Ling Xiao was stronger than Ao Ling Jing in terms of strength, but in terms of intelligence, Ao Ling Jing was probably not as good as Ao Ling Jing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been kept in the dark for so many years until the very last moment. Ao Ling Zhao's strength has dropped so much that even he can't accept it. That's why he's like this now. Bailey Hongzhuang's light voice carried a bit of sigh. However, after you agreed to help him, I noticed that his eyes were blooming with spirit. His mood was completely different from before. He only became like this because he felt that he had no hope. Now that he's pulled himself together, the speed of his breakthrough should be greatly increased. Di Beichun smiled faintly. However, this matter can't be rushed. It's not something that can be done in a short period of time. Although Ao Ling Xiao spoke with certainty, they couldn't be sure that this was Di Beichun's true identity until they received confirmation from the Di family. Right now, I only hope that Ying and the others can succeed. That way, we can go to the upper realm. I really didn't expect the Shengxian continent to be divided into two continents. However, this is more in line with the Shengxian continent I knew before. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile. After so many years, I don't know if there are any families that existed 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years was a long time, but for those monsters, it wasn't impossible for them to persist for such a long time. After transmigrating for so long, she had already accepted her current identity. However, she still missed her previous life. Di Beichun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression and had already guessed what she was thinking. He immediately said, I hope the Bailey family still exists. When the time comes, I will accompany you to take a look. Of course, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't reveal her original identity. Even if she did, no one would believe her. However, he understood the feelings that Bailey Hongzhuang had for the Bailey family. As long as she could see that the Bailey family was doing well, her heart would be comforted. Listening to Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's face could not help but soften a little, and her eyes became distant and deep. If it is really still there, then it would be good. Back then, when she accidentally transmigrated, she didn't give any instructions or make any arrangements. This has always been a regret in her heart. If the Bailey family can't be passed down well because of her departure, then she will be the center of the Bailey family. Seeing the hope in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Di Beichen couldn't help but hold her hand. His voice was low but full of strength. Yes, they will definitely be here. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen returned to the challenge area, Mo Yunjue was still standing alone outside the challenge area. Chapter 38-32. He's busy cultivating in seclusion. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Mo Yunjue nodded, but the surprise in his eyes did not dissipate. So that's how it is. He has been cultivating very hard recently. Now that our cultivation has reached the Starlight Realm, he naturally has the pressure. If he doesn't cultivate hard, it will be difficult for him to catch up with us. While speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and winked at Di Beichen. Ao Lingxiao actually only told him about this matter. Presumably, he didn't want others to know about it. Since Ao Lingxiao didn't want to say it, they naturally wouldn't say it. Moreover, Di Beichen's identity had not been confirmed yet. It was too early to say all this. Master, as long as Ying and the others pass smoothly, we can return to Penglai Palace in 3 days, right? Xiao He ran out of the chaos ring. When Ao Lingxiao spoke before, they also heard it clearly. They really wanted to see where the entrance to the upper realm was. It had only been 1,000 years. They didn't expect the situation in Shangxian continent to have changed so much. It was really beyond their expectations. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right. As long as Ying and the others pass smoothly, our goal in Penglai Palace has been achieved. We can go back directly. That's great. Xiao He jumped and clapped. But after we go back, our first task is to deal with Chu Yunyao. Xiao He was very unhappy with this guy. There were many cultivators on Penglai Island who made it unhappy, but there was only one person who could make it feel disgusted like Chu Yunyao. When it thought of how Chu Yunyao looked down on its master, it wanted to teach this guy a lesson. He really looked down on people. Seeing Xiao He mention Chu Yunyao, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. After we go back this time, Chu Yunyao will definitely not be our opponent. At that time, we will naturally take revenge. As for Chu Yunyao, Bailey Hongzhuang was also extremely disgusted. If Chu Yunyao had done all this for her, it would not have been like this. However, Chu Yunyao had involved Shangguan Ying in it and let her suffer such torture, which was the most unbearable thing for her. The reason why Shangguan Ying had suffered such a serious injury was all because of her. If she couldn't avenge Shangguan Ying, she would never be able to vent her anger. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen couldn't help but smile. In my opinion, you don't even need to do anything. Ying and Xiren won't let her off so easily. If Xiren's strength had also reached the Star Radiance realm, then he believed that the first thing when Xiren would do after returning was to kill Chu Yunyao. Because Shangguan Ying's position in his heart was irreplaceable, Chu Yunyao's actions at that time had already touched Xiren's reverse scale, so he would definitely make a move. This was his understanding of his brother. Bailey Hongzhuang also understood that compared to her, Xiren definitely hated Chu Yunyao more. But since Xiren wants to make a move, then I will not come forward. This matter will be handed over to him, okay? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Thinking about it, the situation was like this. Chapter 38-33. After Shangguan Ying and when Xiren entered the room, many cultivators in the Demon Training Tower paid close attention to the two of them. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two had succeeded in succession, everyone was very envious. Now that Shangguan Yingying and Wenziren had also entered the room, they were very curious as to whether the two of them would succeed. If the two of them also succeeded, then the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang and her team would really be too abnormal. They were clearly only in their 20s, yet they all had such strength. How could it not be amazing? Everyone was even certain that once when Ziren and her team succeeded, then Bailey Hongzhuang and her team would definitely become the most terrifying team on Penglai Island. From what I see, not all of them will succeed. Didn't the cultivator who came with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also fail? The cultivator that everyone was talking about was naturally A.O. Lingxiao. A.O. Lingxiao had not appeared with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others many times before, but he was still noticed by many people. Therefore, when A.O. Lingxiao was about to enter the room, everyone also paid attention to him. When they saw that he had failed, everyone let out a sigh of relief, finally giving them some comfort. That man doesn't seem to be very close to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. They rarely appear together, and we haven't seen them for a few days. However, when Ziren and when Xinyao are different, they have always been together. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two sat on the ground, closed their eyes, and began to cultivate, directly blocking out the noise around them. Although everything they saw when they were breaking through the room was an illusion, Bailey Hongzhuang was very happy. Her demon summoning scripture had indeed evolved and was not an illusion. Following the evolution of the demon summoning scripture, her cultivation speed had also increased. It was really something to be happy about. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating, Baishi's surprised voice suddenly rang in her ears. "Master, let me tell you some good news." Baishi's voice was filled with excitement and agitation. It was as if he could not wait to tell her the news. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, a trace of surprise in her eyes as she asked, "What good news?" "A new stone room has finally been opened in the Chaos Ring." Hearing Baishi's words, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be taken aback. Her pitch-black, beautiful eyes immediately surged with surprise. "Are you telling the truth?" White Lion nodded. "It's true. I only just discovered it. Just now I was bored and strolled around the Chaos Ring a few times. However, when it was strolling around, it suddenly discovered that there was an additional door. After taking a closer look, it discovered that a new stone room had been opened in the Chaos Ring." Once it had realized this, it had immediately come to tell Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, the appearance of a new door was a great help to Bailey Hongzhuang. "That's great." Bailey Hongzhuang was overjoyed. It had been a long time since a new door had been opened in the Chaos Ring. Chapter 38-34. When she thought of this, Bailey Hongzhuang almost wanted to immediately enter the Chaos Ring to take a look. Unfortunately, there were too many cultivators outside the challenge room, so it was not convenient for her to check. The three beasties were also extremely excited in the Chaos Ring. They were all guessing what would appear in a new stone room this time. Now that Master had already mastered many things, what would appear in the new stone room that would be beneficial to Master? "Master, do you want to come over and take a look now?" Xiaohei could not help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment before shaking her head. "Forget it. I'll go in and take a look after Yingying and the others are done." Since the door to the stone room was already open, there was no need to rush. She had run back several times, so others would not know what had happened. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the three beasties understood what she was thinking. They immediately said, "Then we'll wait for Master to come back before going in to take a look." "Good." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile as she said in a gentle voice. Bewitching also noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang was mumbling something. It was obvious that she was communicating with the three beasties. He could not help but chuckle. "Wife, what are you mumbling to Xiaohei and the others about?" "I'm not telling you." Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be mysterious as she blinked and stuck out her tongue playfully. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's lively and playful appearance, Di Beichen's eyes couldn't help but deepen a bit, and his heart softened. His wife was very charming no matter how he looked at her. She was different and had a different style. To him, no matter how he looked at her, he would never get tired of looking at her. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two waited outside the challenge room, just like that. As time gradually passed, the joy in their hearts grew stronger. As long as Xiren and Wen Xinya were still in the breakthrough room, they would continue to challenge the breakthrough. As long as they persisted for one more day, they would have passed one more breakthrough. As long as they did not come out, it meant that they had a high chance of passing the breakthrough. After Long Yanwei and Yizihua found out that Xiren and Wen Xinya had started to challenge the level, they had nothing better to do, so they came to the challenge area to take a look. Later on, they simply waited outside with Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two, waiting for Wen Xinya and Wen Xinya to come out. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were extremely surprised and amused at the same time. Long Yanwei and Yizihua really didn't put on any airs in front of them. Bailey Hongzhuang, during this period of time, Penglai Palace has produced a lot of healing medicine. Now, in addition to supplying Penglai Palace's disciples, it has also gradually begun to be sold outside. Long Yanwei saw Bailey Hongzhuang. During this period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang had not been in Penglai Palace. Presumably, she didn't know much about this matter. Has it already begun to be sold outside? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. She didn't expect Penglai Palace to be so fast. Long Yanwei nodded. The first batch of healing medicine was first supplied to Penglai Palace's disciples. It wasn't until there was a surplus of healing medicine that it began to be sold outside. In fact, if it wasn't to be more certain of the effect of this healing medicine, Penglai Palace would have sold it outside even faster. After all, the number of people in Penglai Palace was far from what ordinary forces could compare to. Once it was put into production, the speed was naturally not slow. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.